Welcome back to another episode of Lawyer Up and to the Right. Caesar, my friend, it has been a while. How have you been? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, it has been a very long time. Excited to get back into the saddle. We're approaching end of the year, holiday time, but we got business to take care of.
Yeah, absolutely. So it has been a while since we've recorded. And today we're going to talk about SEO, but specifically a lot of the changes that have been happening in legal SEO landscape and what we see as trends, but also what should you be focused on from an SEO point of view in 2026 going forward. So we've got a list of 5 different things here. This is going to be 5 important legal SEO trends that your law firm needs to be focused on. So let's go ahead and get into it. Caesar, number 1, we have the CTR Collapse. So what we have, Caesar, here is a search for best Miami personal injury attorney. Of course, we've got the ads on top, we've got LSAs, we've got sponsored results, but then we've got the AI overview here, Caesar. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about the CTR Collapse. Let's talk about this for a minute.
Yeah, and in particular, what we're talking about here is mostly informational content because Google is making a strong push to increase the number of what's called zero-click searches. So no one actually leaves Google. You're able to get the answer to your question right there on the platform, whether it's through an AI overview or going into AI mode, which is another thing that Google is really pushing and making it easier for people to use their AI chat engine. Exactly. So it's less so the case with transactional type of searches. If you're looking to buy a new pair of shoes, or in this case, if you're looking for a personal injury lawyer, odds are you're not going to make a decision just by reading a couple sentences there. We'll talk a little bit more about where more of those searches are happening though, which is inside of LLMs. But if somebody is going to Google and doing a what we call top of funnel query, I think it was down to like 60%, or it was up to 60% of those searches were zero-click searches. If I'm making a prediction, I'm going to say that's going to start to increase. 70 to 80% of informational searches are probably going to lead to zero clicks.
For sure. And this one is also more of a bottom funnel type query here, where you see the AI overview showing up. What's interesting though too, Caesar, is you see essentially a truncated version of direct citations of the lawyer's websites, which is good, which tells you that essentially what's happening, and this is why I agree with you, Caesar, that I think it's going to get up to 100% soon, is essentially like the traditional SERPs are just being rolled up into the AI search overviews. It's almost like just folding it up underneath that. So bottom funnel, you still have the opportunity to get direct traffic here, which is important. But when we come over here and look at the top funnel stuff, what to do after a car accident, we used to use this as a traffic generation strategy. And instead, what's happening here is if you have this content on your website, the best bet is that you get cited here. And then, yeah, somebody might click to go through, but probably not. As a user, I never do. I just get what I need here, and then I'll refine as needed. So that's number 1, the CTR collapse. And this is important too, because when we talk about SEO as a lead generation client acquisition strategy, you have to be very, very mindful of how your agency is investing their time and resources. If they're doing what's called like traditional SEO with a lot of blog content, a lot of top funnel searches, people aren't coming down here. So you're just not going to see as much traffic anymore. Instead, what you want to focus on is much more of the local SEO stuff, trying to rank here in the maps pack, which is a different strategy. So that's number 1, the CTR.
And I will say that content is valuable from the perspective of SEO because Google is still crawling your website. They still want to see that you're covering a topic in depth. So having blog content from a technical standpoint is more of the purpose behind that. It's going to start delivering less and less real human traffic, but having those pages is still beneficial so that Google can understand that you have a deep website, that you have all of these pages internally linked together. They can make sense of the content that you have of your website architecture. So there is a benefit creating that content, but it's just there's less of a traffic payoff.
So that's number 1, the CTR collapse. Number 2 is LLMs like ChatGPT, Perplexity, becoming more like a personal concierge. So I talk about this a lot with clients, is that Google search is much more of a linear process, right? You go, you type in what you want, you'll search for it, and then you'll come up and you'll refine. But essentially what you're doing is you're putting in a query, you're scanning the page, and then you're almost starting a new query with new results. We come into ChatGPT, which I don't know about you audience watching this, ChatGPT is my go-to for pretty much running my entire life, including a lot more search queries. What's happening now is it's happening all inside of the platform. It's conversational. So if you come into ChatGPT and you type in something like what to do after a car accident, it's going to summarize all these different, this is like a traditional blog post, very similar to what you might find inside of Google here, right? As like a listicle article, but happening inside of ChatGPT. Now, Google, of course, does have, as Caesar said, the AI search mode. I don't really use that much, Caesar, personally. I don't know if you do or if other users do. Maybe it'll pick up in the future. But what's beautiful about ChatGPT is the conversational nature within AI. So when we talk about this becoming like a personal concierge, you are having a conversation back and forth with it, obviously, and you might requery with something like, how do I know if I should call a lawyer, right? You go through, you read this, and then it could just be, it's going to give you recommendations here too, but can you find me the best car accident lawyer near me in downtown Miami, Florida? Right? Where you're having this conversation where it's becoming a concierge. In car accident, we do a lot of personal injury stuff, so it's top of mind, but it's not going to be as personal concierge-y, if you will, as something like family law, right? So if you are going through a divorce, right, you're asking ChatGPT about child custody. You're asking it about division of assets. If you're a business owner, what do I do with my business? How do I protect my assets? And vice versa. Infidelity rules and laws. You're having this very deep, emotional, intimate conversation with it. And by the time you actually get ready to look for a lawyer, you ask for a recommendation, it's going to remember all of that. And it's going to make a recommendation based on what you said. So we look at emotional legal processes, family, business, partner disputes, criminal defense. This is very much so a game changer. So I know AI, SEO, aka GEO is on a lot of your radars because I have a lot of conversation with lawyers and they're asking more about it. And this is something that we folded into our standard SEO service. When we do SEO, we now look at SEO as an umbrella. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So within that, it's not just creating content to rank for blog posts in top funnel searches. It's local SEO, it's website management and optimization, it's AI SEO.
It's replacing the E of engine to everywhere.
Yeah, very well said. I haven't heard that one yet. That's good. I like that. I'm going to use that.
Search everywhere optimization. You know, what's interesting with this result that you got, and this is very much going to the point of this personal concierge concept, is notice that you only got one recommendation.
Yeah.
And what I believe is that the reason for that, ChatGPT has something called conceptual or contextual memory. So it's basing this recommendation off of your previous conversations with ChatGPT. So it's sort of eliminating power of choice in a way where it's just telling you, hey, based on what I know about you, based on the conversations that we've had, this is the best law firm that I believe is the best law firm for you. Now, it does give you, if you scroll down a little bit, it'll ask you a secondary question. Hey, you want me to list 5 or 10 more? But that's a second step. So we can see here just a direction that these LLM models are really trying to get to the point where they know you so well that they figure they don't even need to give you options. They're just going to tell you what the best option is.
Yeah. And what's also very interesting here, we're going to talk a little bit about this in one of our future steps, users, is that these citations in here, number one, is it's citing that law firm's website, right? Which is interesting. That means like there's a certain type of content that should be on your website to qualify for these searches. It's not like it's pulling it from some third-party reputable source. It's pulling from their website, right? Like this is kind of crazy if you think about it, because like they might not have over 50 years of experience. I'm not claiming that they don't, but just because it's on their website, it's pulling and it's citing that. That's interesting, right? The other thing I see here is Yelp, Miami Herald, Injury Attorney Florida, Super Lawyers. We're going to talk about these when we get to another trend coming up. But this is important to keep in mind that not only does it pull from your website, but there's a lot of other places that it's pulling from too. That's a very, very important part of rounding out your entire search strategy, if you will. So that's number 2, LLMs becoming personal concierges. Number 3, Caesar, the emergence of UGC and the quote unquote human island strategy.
It's a perfect segue, what you were just saying now. If you notice where this retrieval is coming from, is in this case we have Yelp, we have some of these aggregator sites But especially for informational type of content, what you're going to find is the retrieval source is actually a forum. It could be something like Reddit, Quora, or in the legal space, any specific niche forums. It could be LinkedIn posts. So those are things where you need to think about, where traditionally everything just went on your website, even review. Gemini is going to have a bias towards Google reviews, but ChatGPT has more of a bias for Yelp reviews or Avo reviews. So, it's about diversifying the platforms where you place information and where you're getting reviews, so that when these LLM models, when they go out and they scour the web, you have more tentacles out there of information that they can find.
So number 4, Caesar, is the death of generic top funnel blog content. And actually, we talked in our pre-show meeting about changing from death.
You thought death was a little too heavy-handed.
It's not heavy-handed, because I like to shock and awe in our marketing, but it's really just a retooling, if you will, because we've already touched on this, right? So essentially what this is saying is that a traditional SEO strategy, and this is like a big red flag, if you're talking to agencies and they're like, yeah, we're going to do 30 blog posts a month because Google cares about freshness. That's not it. Again, if we go back 3, 4, 5 years, yeah, we used to create a lot of content around things like what to do after a car accident in Florida, right? Because somebody searching for this is in market for car accident lawyer services, whether they know it or not, right? But what has happened here in terms of how Google ranks and really surfaces and displays this content is that almost all of it is just getting cannibalized here by this, and the traffic is no longer getting to the website. So it's harder to justify creating that much top funnel blog content for traffic that won't even come to your website, right? Like, people don't care that it's on a lawyer website. They just want the correct information from this, right? They don't want to be sold. They just want the information that they need. So if it doesn't get to your website, is it really worth it? And the answer is kind of, right? And this is where the shift and the change in the generic top funnel blog content comes from, because it's less about getting rankings and traffic now, right? Like, this used to be a good tool to explode traffic, right? We used to be able to 10x traffic on a website by creating a ton of blog content that would just get a lot of rankings, drive a lot of visitors to the website. Not anymore, because that traffic has shrunk because of these AI overview answers. However, we're now looking at it saying, okay, these citations are becoming important inside of ChatGPT and inside of Google. So this content now serves almost as a foundational architectural type of content. So the topics of it change a little bit. It's a little bit like less of the 5 crucial steps, a little bit more. And it's a little bit more talking about state laws, right? It's a little bit more talking about things that are integral to building out the proper foundation informationally, so search engines know that you are a source of authority and truth on this topic. So it's a shift, Caesar, right? It's not quite a full-on death.
The operative word there is generic, right? So where content is still valuable is when you're offering some sort of information gain, opinionated pieces, something that is unique from what's being said. If it's just regurgitating, and this is unfortunately one of the negatives of proliferation of AI content, is that it's just the same thing being said over and over, right? So having a different spin on something can work very well. And then where you're publishing that, rather than just everything being a blog post, you can do video. Unlike traditionally SEO, you'd have to have a video accompanied with a text blog because Google couldn't contextualize what was in the video. LLMs are multimodal. They can understand video, audio, podcasts, all that stuff. So it's just a different way of approaching informational content, which goes back to the first point that we were making, is that you're going to see less and less benefit from traffic from that content.
Which is a perfect segue into the final one, number 5 here, Caesar, which is the return to real business and brand building. And this is actually interesting. I had a prospect yesterday where we were talking. He works for a pretty large injury firm in Virginia. He had his own practice beforehand, right? His practice beforehand has a podcast that actually does pretty well. He talks about law, marketing, injury, that type of stuff, not connected to the new firm. The new firm is much bigger, much more powerful, all that and above. His small firm gets a lot of leads from ChatGPT right now. And he's not doing any sort of like active SEO per se. He also ranks pretty well in the Google Maps pack. And it's really because of two things. One, he's got a lot of reviews. And number two is podcast, right? He's got that podcast on YouTube. He's pushing it out to clips. He's publishing it on his website. He's got all of them listed there. So it kind of ties into that. And it really ties everything together. And when we talk about brand from the scope of SEO, it's multifaceted, right? It's content and not just like blog content. It's multi-platform. It's like actually trying. I guess that's the best way to put it, right, Caesar? Is that like where we're going and where we're heading is that traditionally SEO has been pretty, not easy, but it's been, you can manipulate it, right? You can hire an agency to do everything for you.
It's harder to fake now. It's harder to fake now. Before, you could do a podcast, you could sponsor events, you could do, local stuff, you could do even like off-site or offline marketing, like brand awareness kind of thing. And SEOs would just say, forget about that. Let's just get links, right? Because it had more bang for the buck when it came to just ranking in search. But what we're talking about here is expanding beyond just the 10 blue links, and it's just a lot harder to hack your way to the top now.
Yeah. And I do want to talk a little bit more about brand here too, Caesar, because I think it's something that's misconstrued, especially through the scope of SEO. So there's another prospect that we're working with. Don't want to say their name, but they're one of the biggest injury firms in Florida. They crush it in organic search. They crush it. And my hypothesis is the number one reason is because their branded search is so high. So we talk about signals that you can't manipulate. You can manipulate content by building a ton of it. You can manipulate links by buying them, doing PR. Things that Google and these AI platforms can see through, they're hyper intelligent, are factors that just happen naturally that are also a display of authority. And one of the most important things is somebody going to Google, typing in your law firm's name. Why is that so powerful? Because that means that they have decided that they either are almost ready to hire you because they want to do more research on you, or they are an existing client, they're trying to find your phone number, or they want to hire you. That is the ultimate signal to Google that you are an authoritative, reputable, good quality law firm that deserves to be shown in Google and also in ChatGPT searches as well. It's really, really impactful. And how do you impact branded search? Well, you do it by actually marketing yourself and your business. So through off-platform content creation, social media, Instagram drives a ton of branded search. Podcasting, going to events, speaking, all that type of stuff, sponsorships at events, drive branded search. And then of course, out of home as well. Billboards, radio, TV, that's expensive. If you can afford to do it though, it has a huge impact. Billboards have a massive impact on branded search. Yeah. And those things are kind of like indirect, but also highly direct ranking factors. A lot of firms get stuck because they're like, man, we've been doing SEO for years and we're not moving it. It's like, yeah, because you haven't really shown Google that you're a reputable brand. And that also includes things like reviews, Caesar, right? All sorts of these things that are not actually tied to your website that have a huge, huge impact. And brand, to me, again, like we said, we're kind of coming full circle a lot, or maybe coming to probably a better way to put it is we're coming to a place with these algorithms where they can understand true manipulation versus true brand. And Google has made it very clear for years they always want to rank brands, and it just makes sense too.
Yeah, right? And traditionally SEOs have been so fixated on the concept of it needs to be a followed link, so not to get too technical, but there's no follow links and there's followed links. And a lot of times when we're talking about some of the things we're talking about now, social media and that sort of thing, it is a no followed link. So historically, it wouldn't really benefit you from an SEO standpoint, but now it's about mentions. Now it's about your brand being mentioned in areas where there's a lot of activity happening, authoritative websites. Just having your name mentioned is where these LLM models are putting this together, putting all the pieces together when they're gathering up and doing these fan out queries where they're doing the 10 or 20 queries that you would have had to have done manually. It's doing it behind the scenes and it's packaging the answer for you, right? So that's why it's just a different way of thinking about things now, because we're not just so fixated on, am I getting a followed link out of this?
So that's it. Those are the 5 big SEO predictions and things that you should be focused on for your law firm going into 2026. As always, if you need help with this stuff, we are available. We love talking shop. We'll do a free audit. We'll talk about what you've done for marketing to date and see if we're a good fit to partner up. If not, make sure to like and subscribe because we're back every week now, Caesar.
Yeah, till next time.
We're doing this every week, so we'll see you next week.